Well, you'll never guess what. You always know that a guest is taking things officially and properly when they start buying a proper microphone, and that's exactly what Chris has done. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me better now, Gareth.
Listen to that, crystal clear. It's like you're in the room with us, Chris. So if you don't know, Chris is our resident vet, but he's more than just a vet, because I'm going to put it out there again. I think one of the most experienced vets in the country. Is that fair to say, Chris?
Well, I think you might be over-egging it. I've got lots of experience, Gareth, but I think they're better vets than me.
I beg to differ. But anyway, we'll leave that there. So, Chris, just to do what we call in the industry a reset, because you've been a vet for a long time. Dare you say how long?
Yeah, it's 42 years now. I qualified in 1980 from Bristol University, and I really still enjoy the job since compared to the day I started. It's a marvelous thing working with people and their animals and just explaining what's going on and putting their minds at rest, and sometimes having to be with them in the sad decisions. But it's a great privilege to be of service to people at their time of need in different ways, different emotions.
And you must like it, because you tried to retire and then you decided that you wanted to go back. Now, was that your wife getting fed up of you loitering around the house, or was it your choice as well?
Well, you know what they say, a man needs a shed. Well, I've got a rather big one, Gareth. So what happened is in April, I retired from my practice, which had grown phenomenally. We started with about 15 people when I joined it, if that. And we've now got over 80 working the practice. Wow. So it has grown. It's now on four or five sites. And it's been great to see. But it was time to me to move on, allow the younger generation to take over. And my vision was that we want to build the community we want to live in. This is really important. You know, I feel everybody is of worth, and we're all created by God, and therefore we've got to look after each other. So this new vet surgery I'm setting up is meant to be able to offer people of greater diversity to be able to come and work in a veterinary practice. So we're looking at larger rooms, larger corridors. So somebody in a wheelchair could work there. Somebody who is neurodiverse, has autism, could come and work there and find they're not crammed in, and we're going to make accommodations for them. And so we just want it to be a place where people can come and grow and blossom. You know, how far can they go? And that's the same for the clients coming in. We want to be willing and ready to hear all their stories, which are so important to them and so enriching when you share life stories with people.
Am I right in thinking that it's in Norfolk? Is that where you're building it?
That's right. Yeah, just outside of Norwich, a little village, well, not so little now, it's growing, called Ratkeith.
So I've got friends in Norfolk. Good morning to Ian and Joe, who live in Sheringham. So that means that I'm going back there in the summertime. It seems like ages off yet, but I could come and visit you, Chris, in your brand new surgery, because it should be open by then.
We'd love it. Yeah, we'd love to show you around, Gareth. It's amazing. The walls are going up, and they're putting the air ducts in for the air conditioning. And it's just, everybody comes around and say, this is amazing, because it's just got a real good feel about it.
It's so exciting. And that's going to be opening in January, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully, the builders have assured me we should get the keys for January the 14th. That's when they should finish. We're then going to have the staff in on January the 16th with training. We're going to do first aid and learning to work as a team. We're going to be learning about the new computer system and getting everything stocked up to open on the 30th of January.
That's so exciting. And I reckon that because this is presumably something that's never been done before, where it's so diverse, and like you said, there's wider corridors. I never even thought about that. If a person who wants to be a vet and is a vet is in a wheelchair, then corridors tend to be a certain size and very small. So could this be something, I guess, the template and the benchmark, which is rolled out throughout the whole country?
Well, it's possible. It all comes down to money as well, Gareth. And I'm afraid a lot of vets now are owned by corporates who tend to look at the bottom line a bit more. But, you know, it could hopefully, I'm hoping it will set a trend, and we will look what people can offer, not what you could think what problems they might bring with them. You know, it's making round holes for round pegs and square holes for square pegs. Everybody should be allowed a space within our society.
Now, we were going to get stuck in straight away with our feature, but we've got carried away with that exciting news. So we're going to play a song and then come back to Chris. But this is a great opportunity for you to get in touch if you've got any questions about horses. We decided that, you know something, we talk a lot about the dogs and the cats, but we know that there's a lot of people who have horses who listen to this show right now. So what are some of the conditions, and we'll talk about this in a moment, what are some of the conditions that horses suffer from? And I said this at the start of the show, Chris will probably either correct me or confirm me on this, that having a horse is not really a pet, it's a lifestyle. It's something that you have to dedicate hours a day to. It's not just a case of, I don't fancy going up to the stables, it's a bit cold. Nelly will be all right. You have to constantly, you're either in or you're out. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, you've got any questions regarding horses, you may have them, or you just want to ask questions to an expert about horses, that's something I never thought I'd say on The Breakfast Show, then get in touch with us. The number is 0161 511 9555. That's 0161 511 9555. I don't know about you, but I'm learning so much, not just about Chris, but about animals in general. So this here, we're going to dedicate the next few minutes to talking about horses. Now, I know this will be interesting because there'll be different types of people listening here. There'll be people who are probably mucking out their horses right now as we speak. There'll be people like me who know nothing about horses. And I'll be honest with you, in the nicest possible way, I don't really have any interest in horses at all. It's so far away from where I am. I wouldn't know how to ride a horse. I think I've only fed a horse once, Chris, in fact. I may have fed it because I think probably my daughter wanted me to show her how to feed a horse, and it terrified me. They're so big. This is the thing about horses, that if it sort of decides that it doesn't want to play ball, it's not playing ball, is it, a horse?
No, well, you have to know how to handle it. You have to read them. Like a lot of things in life, it's picking up those cues before it gets too dangerous. And knowing, I mean, the horse will weigh you up and work out whether you're in charge or he or it's in charge. And it's sometimes you have to be quite physically strong to hold them.
Because so in fact, back to Norfolk, I went to this incredible sort of fair there. Not a fun fair. It was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically where the whole community and further afield, they get together in a field, and you have like the local farmer who sort of who's trained up a load of ducks, and they're jumping over things. And what they had was this group of people who were doing tricks on horses. And I was just absolutely blown away, because the difference between me and them is poles apart. Like, they did this incredible trick where this lady actually stood up fully on top of the saddle. She wasn't holding on or anything. It was almost like horse surfing, if you want to call it that. And then another one where this man got out of the saddle and he was holding onto the reins and running next to the horse and then got back on it again. So it is those things, isn't it, where I guess if you give the horse confidence in you, it will give it back.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's they know if somebody means business, if you like, or knows how to handle them. What they don't like to feel is you've got somebody who's not know what they does, because then they get anxious, and the horse is a prey animal. It's something that if it gets worried will run. It will run away rather than attack you. It will run away, and so they'll bolt off if they're not comfortable with what's going on.
Is he one of your favourite animals, Chris? I've never asked this really before, but what is, as a vet of 40 odd years, what's your favourite animal? The one that you just sort of really think, wow, this is a beautiful thing.
Well, I can't say that, Gareth, because they're all part of God's creation. The dog, the cat, the cow, the pig, the guinea pig, the rabbit, the horse, the donkey. They all have their place within the animal kingdom, and they're just all wonderful in their own way. Some people I know are absolutely passionate about horses, and they can't imagine life without them. But we just enjoy them all.
Sitting on the fence there, ladies and gentlemen, if you ask me.
Definitely, we don't want to upset anybody.
But the thing is about a horse, and even a non-horsey person looks at one, and it is a beautiful creature, isn't it? I mean, the power of it, the speed of it, and the size of it as well. So I want to ask you, because we've had a question in here, and we will have to touch upon these difficult topics, I suppose, because there's so many different elements to an animal. And Karen has been in touch, and she says, as a vet, is it more difficult when you have to, and she uses the phrase, put the animal out of its misery when it's a bigger animal than when it's a smaller animal? And it's an interesting question, that, because if it's a little hamster, for example, presumably, I'm not saying easier, but there's probably, it's a little bit more sort of, I don't know the phrase to use here, Chris, because I don't want to upset anybody and I don't want to disrespect animals or your job. So just help me out a bit here.
Yeah,
a hamster and a horse.
Yeah, well, I would say the thing when you put down a very big animal, the ground shakes when it falls down, and it has a huge physical impact at the time of doing it. It normally you're doing it outside on a field. You sometimes will do it in a stable, but you're very aware of what's going on. And I've used injections to put horses to sleep, and also used the gun, which can be useful if you have horses that don't like needles, what we call needle shy. Actually, it sounds horrendous, but the horse doesn't actually know what's coming, and it's dead before the bang happens. But every time you put an animal to sleep, it is emotionally demanding, because each time you want to do it well. You want the animal to feel at peace. You want the owner to feel that they're doing the right thing. And sometimes they are pulled in two ways, and it's just being able to help them through when you feel this is the right thing to be done, and to do it in a very kind way, so people know that you've given the full attention. You've given respect to their pet, whether it's a great big horse or a little bitsy hamster. Everybody is emotionally invested in their pets, and the pet needs to be respected, as does the person.
And another one here. And Sarah's been in touch, and she says, it always really upsets me when my dad watches the horse racing and one of the horses falls over, and then they put the sort of cover over, and you know what's happening. And Sarah says, and I've always wondered this, is there no way to avoid that, where of course it may not, due to its injuries, be able to race again, but is there no way that maybe they can just sort of, I don't know, keep it as a pet, or they can give it to some sort of horse sanctuary or something like that? It seems like such a waste.
Well, the thing about horses, and veterinary surgery has come a long way since when I first qualified. A horse with a broken leg would have been put to sleep. Nowadays, they can do surgery. But there's two things there. It can mean some breaks are really difficult to fix. And you can have a horse that's in chronic pain due to arthritis for the rest of its life and unable to do what it really enjoys, which is to run around the field. So in those situations, it's kindest to call it a day, really. But I mean, there are other situations where they can now do surgical operations putting plates in to fix the bones. But the other thing, Gareth, I'm afraid we have to face the fact it comes down to economics as well. And some of these operations can be very, very expensive. And, people sometimes don't have the money to spend on getting animals fixed, or are unwilling to spend that amount of money on it, because it's not just the initial operation, it's all the care afterwards, which gets to be very expensive as well, because they need, they're staying at a referral center. We can't do that at our local vets, which I was part of, Westover. It needs a real dedicated team, and they don't come cheap.
Also, a message that has come in here from Angela, and she says, anybody who says that they don't appreciate horses, they need to get on a saddle in a field and they need to ride one. The freedom and the joy of the air rushing through your hair. Now, I've not got any hair, but do you ride horses often, Chris? I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because I suppose you're so close to the animals, I would just assume that you would know how to ride a horse. I don't know why that would be.
Yeah, I have ridden horses in the past, not as much as some of my colleagues, but it is a marvelous experience. Particularly, my favorite time was when I went to Brazil. My wife comes from Brazil, and her godmother owns a farm in Brazil. So we would go there, and we would ride out and help. Well, not really help, but watch the cowboys looking after the cattle. And it was there you really do see, the use of horsemanship, cutting out cows, lassoing. It was an absolutely amazing experience, that one.
Some great questions coming through. We may not have time for them all, but another one, and I love the fact that our listeners ask the everyday person questions. I'm sure there'll be people listening to this now who know their horses and could delve in really deep and ask Chris questions. But this one here from Sam, can you feed horses sugar cubes?
Well, people do.
They do. Well,
and they feed them polos as well. And I think,
is it a healthy thing to do? Because I remember now that we're being told that you can't feed ducks bread anymore because it's not healthy for them. Has that happened to the sugar cube or the polo mint?
Well, it probably isn't the best food to give them, because it gives them a sugar rush. And they're designed as trickle feeders with eating grass, really. That's a continuous supply of grass through the day, which looks after the stomach, because horses can get stomach ulcers as well, which can be a big issue for riding them. But the odd sugar cube is not going to cause a problem, Gareth.
So there you have it. If you are, well, I would always say, publicly anyway, if you are going through a field, I wouldn't just randomly start feeding a horse sugar cubes. If you can ask the owner first, is that the route we should take there, Chris?
Absolutely. The trouble, you do find that you can get horses into bad habits as well, where they're always nibbling around your pockets, trying to get the sugar cube or the polo. And so you just don't want to get in there, because they can get a bit nippy as well if you're not careful. So I would keep well away from trying to treat your horses you come across that way. You can give them a little bit of grass if you want to on the flat of your hand, but don't go trying to interfere with other people's horses.
Is the phrase true that you can take a horse to water but you can't make it drink? Could you make a horse drink, Chris?
No, you can't. They will. It's up to them. And one of the saddest sights I've seen is we get a condition in horses where they cannot drink, they cannot eat. It damages it's called grass sickness, and they cannot. It's a virus in there, and that's a really sad thing to see. This horse just putting its nose in the water, but it can't drink.
What would be, I guess, the treatment for that? How do you make it drink if it can't, because he's got that illness?
Well, I mean, again, a lot of them will be put to sleep, because, treatment is very expensive, but you can put them on, take them to a referral center. They can be put on drips, so they're kept hydrated, and try to see if the virus will pass away. The body will get an immune response to it and get rid of it.
So we've got one more here, and I want to talk about this. We did touch upon it last week, actually. Babies have colic, and it can be treated fairly easily. But when horses get it, it can be a real problem, can't it?
Absolutely. There's a whole number of reasons horses will get colic. The most likely one is a change of food. So when they go, they've been inside over the winter, and then suddenly the grass grows rapidly, and they go and have a good old munch on this delicious sugary grass, and that causes flatulence, and they fill up with gas, and they can't pass it as quickly as they would like. And then it gives them this really uncomfortable stomach as the guts are expanded. And then what has to happen is you have to give them an injection to take the pain away. Then the guts relax, and out comes this marvelous, large, noisy fart. And they feel much better for it.
And people will watch this back. You look like then a cheeky little schoolboy who was wanting to say the word on the radio and was in your eyes saying, should I say it? Should I say it? I'll say it. It's fine.
But that's the simplistic, what we call tympanitic colic is the simplest one. I mean, we get what horses do when they get colic can make things worse. They are likely to go on their back trying to get away from the pain. And if they start rolling, which they roll from side to side because they feel uncomfortable and they're trying to get away from the pain, they can actually twist their guts. And that can be fatal for them, sadly. Excruciating pain, and they just, they look awful, look dreadful.
It does sound very sad that really with a horse, there's a lot of illnesses that basically end in it having to be put to sleep, which is really sad. But I guess because it's such a big creature, there will be treatments available. But as always, if you keep horses, you keep any animals at all. And if it's changed, if it looks like it's struggling, then get in touch with your vet. Get in touch with an expert and let them have a look at it and diagnose it and then take it from there. Well, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. I see you've bought a new TV there.
Yeah, well, we were doing, I'm a CAP coach, Christians Against Poverty. And we wanted a large screen for the course we ran last night, helping people plan their budgeting so they don't get in a muddle, particularly this time when energy prices are going up, food prices are going up. We had a good group of 5 people last night round at our house. And yeah, it was a good conversation. It's a 3-week program we do. If anybody's worried about how they're going to manage their finances, I would say look out for a CAP course near you. Christians Against Poverty.
Thank you very much, Chris, and we will speak to you next week. And as always, if you've got any questions on any animals you'd like us to talk about something in particular, then do get in touch with us. You can send an email to studio@connectradio.com.